Hey, it's Aaron. Today I'm with a 2022 Polaris Slingshot. If you've been a fan of my channel for a year or two, you will have seen a couple of these. This is the third year in a row I've had one. This year I have the manual transmission instead of the automatic, but otherwise it is the same as it was last year in terms of the engine and everything else. Let's check it out. So the Slingshot, of course, is a two-seat, three-wheeled autocycle. Federally, that's a classification of vehicle that is half motorcycle, half automobile. It is considered a car in most U.S. states. So you don't have to have a motorcycle endorsement to drive it. You sit in the seat, you turn a steering wheel, drive it pretty much just like a car. The difference is it is very low, very wide, and only has one wheel for propulsion in the back. I'll show you that in a minute. First, I want to talk about what's under here. Under the hood is Polaris's own engine. So pretty cool under there. Also, that engine is made to rev up to about 8,400 RPM. So it can run very, very high on that tach gauge. And most of the time, it's happiest when you're somewhere in the 2,000 and above RPM. So you have to keep that in mind for shifting. The engine is also, there is not a whole lot of dampening to hold the sound back for you like there would be in a car. So sports car enthusiasts will have to get used to hearing more engine before you shift. It takes a minute to kind of adjust to that. Most of us are used to the engine gets to a certain point and you move the gear. In this, you have to let it get a little higher than that. I've been pretty consistently, for fuel economy, I've been pretty consistently shifting right around the 2,500 to 2,800 mark, going between the gears. And then for reference, for anybody who wants to know, in top gear, which is fifth gear in this, in top gear at 65 miles an hour, you will be pulling somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 2,600 RPM. At 75 miles an hour, you'll be just at about 3,000 even. That should give you an idea how broad you can run this, how far you can run this. You can go down to fourth gear and still be under 4,000 at 75. So for those wondering, for say track purposes or performance driving, you have a wide RPM range to play with in each gear. You can run it very, very hard and very high. There are gauges on the infotainment screen in this that will tell you all kinds of useful information like engine heat and your average RPM and what's other things that are happening, so you know where you are in terms of your performance and what you're doing to the vehicle. So braking happens up front on these calipers. So there are, I don't know what the size is, but just looking at them, they're probably a two-piston caliper, one on each side. And then you have a e-brake, so your emergency brake is running on the rear wheel. So when you park and you pull that brake, it's setting back there. It does not lean when you turn. It's very stiff. It feels like driving if you've driven like a Manx back in the day, or you've driven any of the serious performance cars with lots of stiff ride to keep the wheels down. That's what this feels like. Most of your weight is up front, which is good because that's your steers, because of the engine. So you'll have a lot of control. You do bounce a little bit. Every little road defect is gonna cause you to have some sort of jounce, but you're gonna go right back on that pavement immediately. It does not drift and fly at all. In fact, it doesn't drift at all. I tried a few times to make it happen. It will not do that. You can slide the rear wheel all day. Every corner you take, you can slide that rear wheel all you want, but you cannot really like drift consistently in this. It's just a matter of dynamics, the way it's designed. So let's look at the back of it. I'll talk about that drive tire and a few details going there, and then we'll look at the inside. I moved the camera pretty low down so I can show you what's going on back here. And we're on the right-hand side of the vehicle, the passenger side. because this is where all of the action is. On that side, it's a beautiful wheel, and that's it. There's you can't really see anything else. On this side, you can see the shock absorber here. You can see it's belt driven, so you can see the gear for the belt drive to go on it. You can also see the belt runs all the way through to the drive shaft off of the transmission back there, and then you can see, maybe from there, you can see part of the braking back here. It is a rotor and caliper, but the rotor has the extra add-on of this physical brake to physically clamp it. This runs up to that manual e-brake up there. So very nice, very cool setup. There is a little tiny bit of belt slip, but you really have to be looking for it to feel it. You won't feel it most of the time, but you will every time you shift a gear. You'll feel that slight hesitation, that slight tiny millimeter of belt movement that you're going to have anytime you have any kind of belt or chain drive. And I'm getting my crap all over my hands doing that, but you'll feel it a little bit. But you, like I said, you really have to be looking for it. You're not going to just feel it every time. You have to kind of be looking for it. Having driven both the original automatic transmission, so with no paddle shifting, the transmission automatic last year I drove had paddle shifting. This year with the manual transmission, my biggest worry with the manual was that I was not going to want to let go of the wheel to move it, because you just, this is an adrenaline drive, to drive this vehicle, and letting go makes you feel unsafe. But very honestly, I have not felt that. I have occasionally, like in traffic, when I'm trying to go up to like 4th or 5th gear and I'm at a higher speed, I've felt a little squirrely about it. But honestly, that was mostly me looking at traffic around me, not the vehicle's fault. And for my money, I think the manual transmission is definitely the way to go. It's awesome. Speaking of, let's go look at that gear shift and some other stuff that's on the inside. So I'm going to try to get a good angle to show you what's going on in here. You can see the gear shifter there. You have a driver information screen and physical gauges on the side of that. I'll show you pictures of the interior as I talk about what's going on. On the steering wheel, you have controls, radio, and so on is on the left, and cruise control is on the right, as well as driver information. And then there's the red Polaris button. In this, that is supposed to boost your dynamics. In this one with the manual transmission, it's changing the fuel mapping a little bit, but it is not really what I would consider like a boost mode. You feel way more happening when you use that button in the automatic transmission versions. So you do have a tiny bit of storage, spot for your phone right there. The infotainment, this has the upgrade for the Rockford Fosgate stereo. It's up to you whether or not you get it. I think if I was spending a lot of time in one of these, I would just get a helmet with Bluetooth speakers in it, and I would just forget the radio upgrade. Because really, to hear the radio, you have to let the whole world hear your radio. And nobody likes those motorcycles that drive by playing their garbage music at 400 decibels, right? Glove box up there is a decent little storage area. You can get a couple water bottles, a few things in there. There's a spot here where you could probably fit some gloves. You could throw in your MP3 or phone or something that would fit in that in this right here. Behind each seat is a large storage area that is made to accommodate a full face helmet. They're a little bit larger than that. You can get a lot in there, actually. I got an overnight bag plus that camera bag in one side, and the vehicle cover and a spare helmet in the other side by just stuffing the vehicle cover into the helmet. And then I wore that helmet and drove this on a little road trip. I went down to Golden, Colorado. It's about 120 miles-ish each way. Got a good sunburn doing it, and had a good time. I went side highways and whatever, and avoided the interstates. It was a lot of fun. That's where I learned a few things that I hadn't seen in other vehicles like this. I'll talk about those in a minute. But for the interior, pretty comfortable. These are decent seats. I was not uncomfortable for that long ride. And, it is open air, so you have to think about that when you're going to be doing something. But lots more storage than I thought. So to finish off this quick video, These are really cool. They're a lot of fun to drive. I was pulling pretty close to 30 miles a gallon. That was an informal test. I didn't do my usual highway loop route. I just filled this and drove all the way to Colorado and then filled it again and did the math. So that's not the normal test that I do that subtracts a whole lot of variables. But in a vehicle like this, that test is a little difficult to do. But I will say that most people on the highway should be able to get close to 30 miles a gallon in this. The tank itself, you fill it back here. The tank itself fills like a motorcycle tank, so you do have to kind of hold it and watch it. You can't just shove it in there and wait. You're not guaranteed to have that pop back. You could just end up with a fountain. So you do kind of have to do that. It has a diffuser right on it, so sticking it in and walking away would be kind of hard anyway. The tank on this is, I believe, about 7 gallons. I'm not totally sure on that, but that's about what I was putting in it to fill it. Was going off the guess of what I was putting in versus what I was supposed to have had left. I would say it's around 7 gallons. I can look up that data and put it on the screen somewhere when I do. But otherwise, really good to drive. There's very, very few things that I don't like about this, and everything that's obviously impractical about it, you don't put on a list of negatives because they're clear impracticalities. It's an open vehicle, it's not enclosed. You should wear a full face helmet driving this. I know that helmet law will apply, so if you don't have to wear a helmet, I guess you don't need to, you don't have to, but honestly, I would 100% wear a helmet every time. Reason for that is not only rollover safety, because all you have is this. There's nothing up here to protect you on that rollover, but also driving down the highway, this little windshield does a lot for bugs, does nothing for rocks and other debris. I got dings on this helmet several times driving this on the highway going down from rocks and whatever, and they'll ping off and you'll hear them. It's very loud. So that could have been right in my face or right on my head. That's not good. So I would definitely recommend this. I would also recommend having either something sticking out for a sun visor or having a dark and easily switchable to a clear front visor. Once you get over 45 or 50 miles an hour, the wind really starts getting in your face, and if you don't have a way to cover your eyes, it starts to get annoying. I drive around with it like this, with the visor open at low speeds, just driving around town, and then I just pull it down when I'm out on the highway or when I'm getting up a little bit more speed. And when the sun goes down, like it's getting close now, we've got about an hour and a half of sunlight left, and when that sun starts going down and gets behind clouds and stuff like it is now, this dark visor gets hard to see through, so I swap it out. It's really quick. I swap it out for a clear one. But otherwise, great vehicle. The controls are very obvious. The headlights are always on, so you don't need to fiddle around with them. You do have brights, so if you pull the thing, you do brighten those lights. But otherwise, they are on all the time. There's no reason to fiddle with them. Then you have your gauge cluster, which shows you all the stuff you really need to know while you're driving. The gear shifting is very easy. The clutch is pretty forgiving, and the shifting is exactly like a car, so you just get used to moving it through those gears. Very, very nicely set up and intuitive for most people who get in it. They will really 100% understand what to be doing. Infotainment is pretty good. The Bluetooth sync and stuff is nice. I used that so that I could nav. So I was going down. I just had music playing in the helmet, and then once I got close, I pulled over, set up my nav, turned on the Bluetooth to the vehicle, and then drove around, because now I'm with the visor up looking for where I'm going, and just had the Bluetooth prompt me through the sound. So useful there. You can get nav for this. This particular one doesn't have the nav subscription, but you can get one with that stereo system through Polaris. So very cool setup overall, and I really enjoy these. These are one of my favorite things, and my wife and I have talked many, many times about how this could be the perfect RV puller. So you put this on a little trailer behind your RV, use this as your drive about when you've parked the RV. But we've talked about it. I love driving this thing. It is so much fun. She has such a good time sitting in this, sitting in one of these with her, with her helmet and cruising with me. And these are such a great thing that it's just a lot of fun and easy for people to understand. So if you don't know how to drive a manual, there is an automatic transmission option that has paddle shifting, so you can still control the gears. Just a great little setup and pretty unique. I don't think you can get anything like this on the market outside of this Slingshot. So that's it. I'm kind of just rambling at this point. I might as well wrap it up. So yeah, this has been Aaron talking about the 2022 Polaris Slingshot. Talk to you again soon.